There we go.
Yep.
Welcome,
Yeah, that tripped me
everybody.
out.
Oh, we're here to talk about the Monkey Zoo or Fusion Zoo chip that has been out for quite a while. And this is going to be our second public call on this chip. I was just looking back over it, and it came out almost exactly 11 months ago. So we're doing a little refresher now because a lot has changed, I believe. And we have Brant here to discuss it. Let's just do a quick introduction. Brant, you want to introduce yourself?
Certainly. So my name's Brant. I also go by Clyde Wallace. I'm going to do a disclaimer and say I wear multiple hats in the ecosystem. I do work for Chia. However, everything I'm talking about today is focused on one of my other businesses. And Greg and I are business partners in Sunset Tech. So this conversation is going to be focused on a project that Greg and I have been working on with Tim and the team at Monkey Zoo. We've had a number of other developers such as Rigidity and Garrix and also Lucky 8 working on this project, but it is focused on what we're calling the fusion and diffusion of NFTs. The fusion concept is you can take one or more NFT and combine them to create a single NFT. The diffusion is that you can then take that creation and break it back down into its constituent parts. So how this applies to Monkey Zoo is really cool because you can buy a number of different Monkey Zoo NFTs and combine them together. Say you like the top hat from one, you like the outfit from another, you want the superhero background from another one. You can take all three of those NFTs, combine them together, and create your own NFT. And Greg and team have been working on an awesome UX in order to aid users in combining those NFTs together to create a new one. And then we've also had some backend developers, Lucky 8 and Rigidity, helping to build out the system that really drives and powers how that all operates. Last year, we were running into a few performance issues, so we actually ended up building a custom built wallet, redesigning some of how the puzzle interacts with the actual blockchain itself, and then also honing in the process for rediscovery of NFTs after the process has been completed. So Greg is going to show us kind of what it looks like from a UX perspective here and how we're designing it for the Monkey Zoo team themselves. Greg, did you want to walk through those slides?
Yeah, sure. So this is basically the consumer front end for the chip that we'll be mostly talking about. I just wanted to run through this quickly to give everyone an idea of what to expect. This is the home page where you can see once you've logged in current recent fusions that have happened. You can explore these and check out the fusion page for each. Um, Once you want to start, you can connect with Wallet Connect. And once you're connected, you are presented with this main menu where you can create a new fusion, look at the fusions you've created, look at save sessions or shop for monkeys that you can use for fusion. And once you've chosen your wallet, you can actually get into the editor. And on the left here, you can see the NFTs that are available to you in your wallet. So these would be either fusions. At the bottom here, you can see ones that are a little distorted from the original and some of the originals on the top here. And once you pick a NFT, you get to see the layers inside it, and you can choose add all of them or none of them. And then ideally, you can do this for multiple NFTs. In this demo, you can just see what it looks like to choose a few different NFTs and create layers from them. On the right here, you can see the layer menu from bottom to top in the order that they appear in the diagram or the um, in the main menu here or main view here, the preview, I suppose. And when you click on one of these on the left, or excuse me, on the right, it becomes selected, and then a box at the bottom allows you to edit the layer, similar to Adobe's editing tools. Once you're ready, you can click the preview button at the top, which takes you to the preview of the Fusion, and you can see which layers you've chosen and the order that they're in, and the parts from the NFTs that you've used to create this new NFT. And when you're ready, you hit Start Fusion. and that asks you to pay a small fee to cover the cost of the next few steps, which happen on chain. So once you're ready, you click pay. The next step happens in your Chia wallet, and it starts the process. And on the back end, it starts rendering, minting, and then asks you to accept the offer in your wallet. And then once you accept it, it confirms the transfer to your wallet and eventually tells you that you're ready and it's all done. And at that point, you have the new NFT in your new Chia wallet. This is an example of the Fusion page. So every NFT has this view in it. At the top, you can see, and I'll just jump ahead because you can see a little clearer here. The top here is the NFTs that it's made out of. You can do all these different activities, including sharing it, downloading the assets, shopping for other NFTs. You can go through a few challenges, which I'll show you in a sec. You can get MZ reward tokens or create a new NFT. And this shows the provenance chart, which I'm particularly fond of, which shows you which NFT was created and what it came from and its parents all the way back to the original NFTs. And you can click on any of these to explore those further. And here's the challenges page. So you can see you get badges for the first fusion you create, the first fusion of a fusion, and your first diffusion. And this is the diffusion process. So as you can see at the top here, there's this diffusion button on any fusion that you own. And you can start that process, and it shows you what NFT you're diffusing and the NFTs it will become. And then at the bottom, a series of the parts that explain what parts were in the NFT. And you can see there are the points attributed to each one of those. Once you click Start Diffusion, you end up basically going through the same process in reverse, and you end up with these NFTs in your wallet instead. The swap happens atomically, so there's no moment where you own both the fusion and the constituent parts it came from. That's it.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. And then if you want to stop your screen share, I'll share the chip itself and we can get into the nitty-gritty. Before we get into the technical details, do we have any questions from those in the audience?
So, Greg, I was wondering, is that website, is that a live demo website? Or is it completely done, or is this a mock-up for now?
That is the original Figma designs, but we're about 6 months into designing that and working on the real version. It's very close to that at this point. Uh, it's yeah, in alpha at this point.
Mhm.
Cool. I mean, it looks great. Yeah,
Thanks.
nice job on that. Other questions?
All right. I do want to just commend the team. Greg and Garrix and Rigidity and Lucky Eight, they really worked hard over the last. I mean, Tim and I, we were talking about this idea at the first one of the 200-hour long NFT spaces. And this whole plan and project has just grown and come to fruition since then. So, really great job, guys. It's been truly a pleasure to work with such great developers and creative mindsets as well. Greg took a lot of time going through the branding process and making sure it had the right aesthetics and the right feel and the right look. And it's really cool seeing where it's come throughout all of that as well. I'm going to go ahead and dive into the chip itself here. There we are. And let's get that so I'm not looking off to a side. So Greg walked through kind of what the creator experience or what the user experience is going to be here. But obviously, with something like a chip and a Chia-less puzzle, there's multiple sides. You have the users themselves, whether it be a creator or a trader who is purchasing an NFT and interacting with one of these fusion systems. You also have minting solutions, so different tools that might want to provide this type of service, such as fusing or defusing. And then you also have display services. And display services are going to be like wallets or the explorers that want to show what's happening with NFTs themselves. And each one of these different participants has a different role to play, obviously, and can adopt the fusion puzzle to different extents. Of course, the fusion puzzle is completely optional. It's something that might add additional value to different users, to maybe your customers if you're one of these display services or one of these minting solutions. And what we've tried to do inside of this chip is make it available to everybody themselves. So the original fusion puzzle itself is open source, and that was created by Lucky 8. We do have that available inside of a public GitHub repo. So you'll find that inside of the chip itself. And we also have a front end that was developed by Garrix. So we wanted to make sure we called out our developers. We're also going to throw in a link here to Rigidity once we get some final bits and pieces in place. The project was managed by us, Sunset Tech, in partnership, and a typo there, with Monkey Zoo. And then, of course, as we've described, it's to trustlessly combine and decompile NFTs. And we're using it for the Monkey Zoo project, but of course, this could be used for a variety of other things, such as maybe you have a house and you want to say, hey, these are all the different aspects that went into the house itself, but you want to be able to pull those aspects out in the future. This could be one utility or one means in order to do that. You have a document that has multiple writers working on the different parts of it. Each one of the writers could have their own NFT associated with them, and you can combine it all together so that you have true provenance showing this is where the original works came from, and this is how they've been combined to create what you have now. As far as backwards compatibility goes, this is fully backwards compatible utilizing CHIP-15 metadata. CHIP-15 is something that Greg and I had been working on for a couple of years leading up to this, knowing that the CHIP-7 metadata just didn't have enough in it in order to allow display services, allow minting solutions to retroactively look up the information necessary to interact with these fusion concepts. And it's that the CHIP-7 is really focused on this NFT itself. With CHIP-15, we actually integrated all of the schema.org metadata into the data object of the CHIP-7 metadata. What that allowed is different things like, hey, you have these associated parts, or this is an aspect that is actually related to a completely different object, and you can embed that directly into the metadata. So CHIP-15 really powers that ability for display services to pull this up. You guys can go through the rationale yourselves as time permits, but we did take a lot of time to figure out, why are we using this metadata? Why is the puzzle built the way it is? Why did we decide to initially go through thinking it was only going to be a one-way puzzle, and then we were able to build a two-way puzzle? And that's the fusion and diffusion built into each other there. So a lot went into the build out, and as we've described, it's been a couple of years. The specification itself throughout here is described as it's built inside of Lucky 8's puzzle. Currently at Sunset Tech, we use a slightly revised version that Rigidity has helped us write. And it's essentially, as everybody knows, Rigidity loves Rust, and it has been a little bit more performant than the Python code base. So we found that switching over to that was much more performant, and it worked better for scaling operations as well. So what you're going to find in the specification is built out based on what Lucky 8 has available, and you're going to find it creates pretty much an identical puzzle itself. So we're working with eggs and eggs here. It's just some of them are a little bit more cracked than the others is all we're looking at. You can go through and follow the process exactly in order to have a complete fusion process completed from the code base that Lucky 8 has provided and is available for public consumption. The other thing that we took the time to do is look at what the actual on-chain costs are going to be. And that's just because we have NFTs, we have DIDs, we have all of these other things in the mix. Now, the main focus of this project was to look at the fusion side of the equation, just because once you defuse, it'll increase the cost a little bit. But we didn't look at what do I do if I'm just setting up a diffusion. And we'll get into those different varying states here in just a moment. But essentially, the fusion is the concept of you're going to take whatever on the left side and you're going to create it into what's on the right side. So the first column is a single NFT for a single NFT. This could be for like upgrading your NFT. Say you you're a creator and you released a whole bunch of NFTs, but guess what? You have broken links or you have bad metadata or you have something else in there. The current practice is, well, I messed up. I have to go burn that entire collection of NFTs and now I can't use it anymore. The other solution, which we used with MonkeyZoo as well, was an auto burn offer file where you create a new one and the user has the ability to get the new one and the old one is automatically burned. So that's another option. But there's also this whole other aspect of collectors. And collectors sometimes like to have that niche product that has a defect in it. Everybody's looking for those nickels that doesn't quite have the buffalo head entirely created on it. That's really what this NFT for NFT concept could be used for is I have all of these bad ones out there. I want to create a whole new set of brand new ones that are correct. I fix that little bit of metadata. I fix that image in some way, shape, or form. So I'd have the bad one. I send out the good one, and anybody anywhere can now trustlessly use an offer file to swap between the two. So that means the first person who bought it can use it. Whoever they sell the NFT to can use it as well. And at anywhere down the chain, anybody would have access to that older NFT that's broken. Or if at some point somebody picked that up, they can swap back for the newer one that has all the fixed metadata. So it really allows you to stay in there. But that's our base level is that one for one. So you're going to find it's pretty high cost to deploy Fusion. We're looking at a 5 FPCs. So this is 5 Mojo per cost. So with a cost of about 137 million, we're looking at just under 700 million for the fee itself. So we're still looking at, fractions of a Chia at this point. And these are the minimum fees. And if anybody needs more information on minimum fees in Chia, feel free to reach out to me in Discord and we can definitely walk through that process. But that's the actual fusion process. So that's going from the first NFT to the second. Now the diffusion is almost identical here just because it's a one-for-one NFT swap. But you'll notice once we jump up and we go for a 2-to-1 instance here, and we have two NFTs on the one side that are being combined to create a single NFT, not only does our base cost increase slightly, but our diffusion cost increase pretty dramatically thereafter. And you'll notice as we were going through this process, we wanted to create the variances so we could better identify where are our jumps? How are we having these large increases? And once we went past that 2 NFT mark, we saw it kind of level out and it almost creates a pretty straight function that you can just plug into an Excel spreadsheet to see, okay, if I have 100 NFTs involved in this, what is the cost going to be? When we looked at this, we obviously want to be good neighbors, so we don't want to fill up the block space. That's one of the reasons we provided this is anybody else who does develop with us, we ask that you be mindful. These are expensive operations that you're doing on chain. They will fill up block space. So we are going to have a hard limit on the number of NFTs that can be used for the actual Fusion Zoo project with MonkeyZoo. It's going to be right around 20 to 25 NFTs that you can have as the input to create the output of a single NFT. So I don't know who all out there has 25 MonkeyZoo NFTs, but start thinking about how you might want to combine them. Look at those hats, look at those different accessories that they have on, and figure out how do I really want to create this. And you saw in the example that Greg showed, putting the frog that you got from the Jungle Collection and blowing him up and having him as what appears to be almost the main character, and maybe the monkey is a sub character within this set. Maybe you take all 25 different monkeys and you have a whole family of monkeys hanging out in a tree. However you want to do it, it really opens the mind and allows you to play with what is the concept of MonkeyZoo. And of course, Tim has been great in that regard of providing an open license to allow individuals to create whatever it is they want once they own those NFTs. So that's kind of the nitty gritty. That got into the technical details. We're going to look at how these 3 different participants can really integrate this puzzle itself. As I mentioned, we have display services such as explorers or wallets. We have minting solutions such as NFT or Pro or Mint Garden Studio. And then you have the creators who want to create their own NFTs or even take something from a current collection and recreate it into their own in some way, shape, or form. So long as the license supports it, of course. Make sure you work with the original creator. For display services, Some things they might want to show are what NFTs are actually locked in these puzzles. Like I said, you might have upwards of 25 NFTs that get locked inside of an on-chain puzzle that are linked to another NFT. You don't really want to show, hey, look, guys, somebody's accumulating all these NFTs. There's 25 in this one, there's 25 in that one, there's 25 in that one, when those are really fusion puzzles. So the first one would probably be, how do I identify puzzles on chain? And we have built in a hint for that. So the same way you look up NFTs, the same way you look up general singletons, you can actually scan the chain and say, hey, give me all of the coins that have this hint associated with them. And it'll give you essentially those launcher puzzles for the fusion puzzles themselves. So you can track those and better identify what NFTs are locked in fusion puzzles. You might also identify, hey, what's actually happening inside of these transactions? When you see something hit the mempool explorer like XCH events, you might want to be able to show this is a fusion puzzle occurring, or this is a defusion that's occurring. It'll also help you to identify that as well. You might look at the total number of fusion puzzles that exist, or the total number of NFTs in general that are locked. It could be a really cool way to have additional metrics on chain, but then also specifically for collections, you have to think about what that does for circulating supply. What's available to the actual community at that point when you have a collection of, say 100 NFTs and 25 of them instantly get locked inside of a contract. You've reduced that circulating supply, but you've also increased the potential value or opportunity cost of that other NFT. Because now you essentially have one NFT that acts as a key. Then we link into minting solutions. So this is where, how can I create the fusion puzzles myself? How can I create diffusion puzzles myself? What I recommend there is either reach out to us at Sunset Tech, reach out to the Monkey Zoo team, or go ahead and look at the specification within this chip itself. And we have given a public version of the puzzle. We've given the process as to how to interact with it. And again, we did run into some issues when we built it ourselves, utilizing some of the more core features, and had decided to build out our own wallet and build it out in Rust to make it a little bit more performant. So we do have some other solutions and services that we can provide from Sunset Tech in order to make that a more seamless and efficient operation for anybody who does want to integrate it. And then, of course, the creators. This is going to be a little bit passive in some regards for creators. If you just want to interact with different entities or projects that have adopted the Fusion puzzle, you might just go on to the Fusion Zoo site, like on Monkey Zoo's website upcoming here in the future, and utilize the Fusion Zoo process within there to fuse and defuse NFTs. Maybe other projects will pick it up as well, and you go to their sites. Or you have the other side of being a creator and say you want to be innovative and entrepreneurial like Tim, and you want to build this into one of your projects itself, but you don't necessarily have the technical expertise in order to maintain or run it. We at Sunset Tech are more than happy to help. I know Tim is more than happy to help as well. And we're here, obviously, we're not just going to nickel and dime you. We're going to talk to you. We're going to figure out what it is you need and make sure that you have the best solution possible. So a lot of opportunity to adopt this puzzle. But then the other thing I want to touch on is, what can it actually do for us? Just to kind of go back to that initial concept of why, what is the purpose? The initial purpose for us was for fusing NFTs, the ability to take multiple different NFTs, take attributes from each of those, combine, say, 5 NFTs into a single NFT that now contains some, if not all, of the attributes of the other 5. But that wasn't enough, because obviously you could just burn the other 5 NFTs. You could have a centralized solution. The real power of this comes as to what happens after. Now you have that single NFT. I can go ahead and sell that NFT to anybody else, and they can use an offer file and trustlessly yoink back, if you will, those other 5 NFTs that are sitting in that puzzle. In case anybody's wondering, that is a highly technical term. I hope you might need to look up a dictionary for it. But yes, they can yoink back those other 5 and essentially have that one transfer back into the 5. And guess what? Maybe they think to themselves, that was a bad idea. I actually really liked that one NFT. I want that back. They can send those 5 right back into the puzzle and get that one NFT back as well. So it really creates a lot of opportunity for creators, but then also collectors who are saying, this is the actual NFT I want. This is how I want to sell it. And NFTs now become more loaded as well as they go through this process. Once you have those 5 NFTs to create another NFT, guess what? You can now take that one NFT and fuse it with a whole bunch of other ones. So you can start creating a daisy chain of these fusions. It can be really interesting in the future as to what happens. But that's only one use case for this fusion puzzle. And that's, of course, our main one. And when we went through and we built out the metadata, we were focused initially on how can this one solution be brought to life. But then we realized there's a lot of other things we can do. So when we built out this metadata, we were looking at how can it work for more than just the one thing. That's why we built in things like encodes creative work. So this is where you have different versions of an actual asset that's presented. You have has part, which shows all of those different NFT parts and the parts themselves. So like this one, what if I took just the yellow Nana shorts and I wanted to, put that on the head of another monkey? This is how it's represented in the metadata itself, where it says, hey, look, now my new NFT has a part which came from this old NFT. And of course, you can go through and see how that is affected with the clown hat and the base layer and all these other aspects that were used combined or that were combined to create this new NFT. One thing that I'm sure some of the tech nerds out there got really excited about is that we are using true SVGs here. Well, really WebPs and SVGs. And the WebP gives us a little bit better resolution, displays better online, but the SVGs are really powerful because they give us the ability to create all of these changes directly in our editor itself. So when you're looking here, we're actually giving you the entire scale, rotation, and translation of what's occurring in that fusion. So even if you didn't have the newly created NFT image, so I took those 5 and I created one new one. Even if I didn't have that image itself, I could go to the metadata for it and I could recreate it based on all of those 5 images that I took to create it originally. So all of that is already stored in the metadata based on how we have it within this initial spec. The other cool thing though is, again, we have more use cases. It's not just taking a whole bunch of NFTs to create another one. The other use case, one of the other use cases we talked about is changing NFT attributes or data. And this is where, okay, hey, I minted an NFT. I shouldn't have put that metadata in there. I need to get it updated in some way, but I want to have true provenance. I want to be able to show, look, I messed up in some way. Here is how I can reclaim it on chain and allow users to take that effect. This method here allows users in the future to trade back as well. So I fix my collection, I send out all the fixed versions of my collection, create all these offer files so that anybody can get the new version of their NFT if they wanted. But guess what? They don't have to. They can take that offer file at any time. And if they take that offer file, somebody in the future can say, I want the broken version. I want that nickel that's missing part of the buffalo's head. And they can go ahead and make that swap themselves. So we do break down again all of the metadata. We have slightly different property IDs for these so that if you're just looking at the metadata itself, you can identify, was this a fusion? Was this an update? What's actually occurring within this swap? And that's by looking at that newer NFT that's created at that point. The other one, very similarly related, is upgrading NFTs. So we've been talking a lot about metaverse lately within Chia, within NFTs. And one of the aspects of the metaverse is that you have characters that are going to live with you, grow with you, and belong to you. I'm sure a lot of people are already seeing how the fusion side of the equation would allow you to say, hey, I have a shirt, I want to put that on my body. Okay, I want to take it off. That's kind of what the fusion side is. But the other side of it is, what if you have a sword and you've been using that sword and you need to upgrade its abilities? You want to add a gemstone to it to give it a special capability or a power. You can also upgrade NFTs using the same function and give yourself a easy way to downgrade in the future if you ever wanted to. So there's a lot of other potential that's built into this that we're not even touching the surface of. So we wanted to make sure the information's there in case people do it. Yeah, I'll pull out a couple of these last to-dos here. But it's really open-ended as to what this fusion puzzle can do. Just remember, you take parts, you can create them into a whole other thing. You take a core asset, you can break it down into other parts as well. To verify the data, everything is written in CHIP-15 standard, so do take a look at that. If you run into any issues or have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Greg or Tim, and we can definitely get you that information. The other parts on here, I went through the brief examples up inside of the chip itself, so we're not going to dive into the full examples. But you will find that each one of those different use cases that we identified here have full metadata examples as you would see on chain described here. But yeah, so that's kind of the nitty gritty, all the fun, wonderful stuff, and my word jumbles. Does anybody in the audience here have any questions?
I guess I have one. Um, so you said that when you fuse an NFT, the new NFT has like a list of the attributes that make it up from the old ones. When you're minting an NFT originally, do you have like a specific metadata format to encode those original parts into them so that you can later take those parts and turn them into a new NFT, or is that just sort of up to the creator of the NFT to decide?
Uh, Primarily, it'll be up to the creator. Our recommendation is to utilize the CHIP-15 metadata, and that'll allow you to better describe how that metadata exists within that original object itself. So you can have those attributes laid out in there. However, for the Monkey Zoo project, obviously a lot of the NFTs were minted before CHIP-15 metadata had ever existed, so that
Mhm.
wasn't possible. So in that instance, we did fall back and in a lot of cases use the CHIP-7 metadata and just the attribute identifiers within there as well. But then, of course, we wanted to work with Tim to identify what is important, what is special to the Monkey Zoo collection. And in this case, one of the big ones was obviously the MZ gifting system. And it's that every Monkey Zoo NFT that you purchase, you end up getting gifted a cat token of MZ. And of course, each NFT has its own value, but we really wanted to retain that in addition to whatever attribute you're scraping out. So not only say the one that had the yellow shorts, the Nana shorts, not only are you getting the Nana shorts out of it, but once you actually merge all of those NFTs together, you take the accumulation of all of that MZ reward. So say you had 5 NFTs that were all gifting 5 MZ, you now get 25 MZ for the new NFT that you have created. So there's other considerations like that that we urge creators to think through as well. Yeah, great question. Thank you.
Other questions? Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask. That was a great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very good, very good. I was going to chirp in if no one's got any questions and just reiterate what Clyde was saying there. You know, thanks to all the people that have worked on this behind the scenes. You know, it's like you said there, Brant, from sort of day one thinking about this to where we are now. Well, what, 2 years later? It seems like a long journey, but we've certainly gone through different iterations of how it should be done, and I think one of the really important things is that we've sort of lent on the way that Chia NFTs are so sort of decentralized and keeping that alive. And the real point of this is that, you know, the decentralized matter or the way that you do this is important. And I think it will become more and more important as we go through this journey of sort of NFTs and how they work. So you know, this chip and certainly what the Monkey Zoo project we've been creating is the first step of something much bigger. And I think, you know, when we look back at this little step in the future, which it'll seem like a long time ago, but it'll be a big step for us. And I think so yeah, just to reiterate, well done to everybody that's got us this far. And yeah, we're almost there. We're almost ready for launch. So yeah, thanks ever so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And Greg, any final thoughts?
Only that, you know, Brandon was talking about how uh, you may not have the metadata prepared in a format that's usable for Fusion. We ended up creating a lookup table essentially, where for every attribute and every type of NFT from every collection, we had a way to pull the original file, the images in this case, in so that we could actually create the layers in the front end. But the way that the CHIP-15 data works is that you could add any type of attribute that you want. So it doesn't have to be an image. It could be like a 3D model or something like that, and it supports all of that. And in some cases, like in the metadata for the metaverse, that could be like an avatar where you're equipping an avatar, and you'd be able to actually define exactly where the transform, the X, Y, Z, and position in space for every object that's connected. So, with chip 15, you can really add as much as you want to it. We're also tracking the MZ gifting token the same way. So, yeah, it's very diverse. You can build a lot with it.
I should note for anybody not familiar with the chips and the process itself, and then all these numbers that we're throwing out there, chip 7, chip 15, and this one's chip 21. I'll I'll put a link to all these. These are all proposals that have two of them have already gone through. That's chip 7 and 15. Those are for metadata standards for our NFT standard. And I'll put a link to those along with a link to the current chip that we're talking about, which is 21, along with this video on YouTube. And I'll get that out there shortly. So everybody has all the information together.
Perfect. Yeah, and thank you very much, Dan. I always appreciate you championing the chimp process and guiding us through the review and the timelines as well. So thank you for taking your time and being the host on this.
Thanks. Are there any other questions or comments?
I do have one. It might be a bit out there, but so you mentioned that you can take an NFT, like let's say you have a sword and you wanted to add an upgrade to it. You could take that NFT, fuse it into the new one, and add that upgrade through. Maybe you have like another NFT that represents the upgrade. Um, Now, if you wanted to go back, it's obviously like a linear history. So if you added two upgrades individually, you would have to undo the second one before you can undo the first one. Is there any way that you could design a system to allow you to remove the first one instead of having to remove the second one first?
Yes, I have been thinking through that process, and I would like to, obviously not in the near future, but in the future, build out a Fusion version 2 that allows for the addition and removal. And I think that'll have a lot of interplay with data layer, actually, where you'll have the NFT itself representing the core asset, and then you'll have data layer that'll represent all of the individual attributes and go through a process to make those updates. But yeah, the current iteration is to retain everything on chain as NFTs, and that was the initial design of the process. But in the future, I am thinking through how that could be done in a feasible manner that's efficient on chain as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're already thinking about part 2 of this.
Oh yes. And Tim will tell you, part 1 is much more feature packed than we initially thought it was going to be. Just based on how we were looking at on-chain puzzles and how things were going to interact, we initially thought, okay, this is only going to be a fusion process initially. We might have to build out some unique escape spend with a special signature to try to allow for the defusion in the future. But then Lucky 8 actually had this genius idea as to how to properly use the offer file concept so that the whole thing could be done trustlessly and in a decentralized manner. So it was, part of that learning experience of going through a couple of years, and that's why it's taken so long as well, as we've had multiple iterations and have made it much more feature packed than the initial version was.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And this is really a great example of the community coming together to build something that's really cool. So super excited for all of you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. And if anybody does have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to Grig, reach out to Tim. We're always open and available to answer any questions about the Fusion Zoo process, about how Monkey Zoo is using it, or how individual projects or other projects could take advantage of this new technology as well.
Yeah, I'd like to just sort of on the back of that as well, just say that, this is all open source. Definitely reach out and once this is in place, I can think of so many different aspects where this could be useful and really sort of decentralize different areas of the Web3 world. Music, sort of deeds, and anything you can possibly think of. I think it really works well as a way to keep that provenance. And I think, when I've looked around at doing this in the past, the ability on the EVM world just wasn't there. So, again, from those initial talks to where we are now, yeah, it's fascinating and amazing. So, yeah, fusions upon fusions upon fusions. That's what I want to see soon.
Thanks, Tim. And speaking of finishing up the process, right now the chip is in review, and that means it's time for everybody to leave their reviews of the chip. In the chip itself, you can also discuss it on Discord, and we're all pretty easy to find on the internet elsewhere. Once we've had a sufficient number of reviews and we think we have a pretty good community consensus that this is looking good to go, we'll move the chip into a last call, and that's a 2-week period where it's kind of a quiet period where if any changes are required, then we'll have to move it back out to review. And otherwise, if it goes through last call for 2 weeks, then we'll finalize it. And then it'll become a standard that everybody can use for the future. So I'll give you guys one last chance. If there's any other questions or comments, now's your chance.
Well, I have one. You guys think this should come to a wall SDK near you soon?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part of that.
Do you think that this should come to a wall SDK near you soon?
I'm still not sure I got that.
Do you
There
think
we
that Fusion should come to a wall SDK near you?
Through a wall. I'm not a.
Brennan's Wallet SDK. He's talking
Oh,
about.
there we go. Yes, I'd love to have it in the Wallet SDK. And that was actually a huge proponent of speeding up the process and making it more efficient as well. Yeah, that was a huge proponent. But I think that would be a great addition to the Wallet SDK is the Fusion puzzle baked right into it. Make it a lot easier for other developers. Thank you.
Sorry, what was that?
All right, let's keep those ideas coming along. And I want to thank Brant and thanks to Tim and Greg and Brandon for joining and presenting. And let's get those reviews in and push this one across the finish line.
That was really exciting.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you all who have helped on the journey.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you later.